in collaboration with Melta Kelantan chapter. My name is Atira and I'll be moderating today's session. Now, on behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to thank everyone for attending today's session despite your busy schedule. We really appreciate your participation and support. So again, thank you so much. Before we begin, I would like to remind all of you
here.
Mic. Madam Atira, your mic.
Oh my God. Oh, I'm so sorry. My mic is off. Okay. All right. So I think I'm just going to start again. So sorry about that. All right. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome all of you to today's webinar. This webinar is organized by the English Department, Faculty of Language Studies and Human Development, UMK, in collaboration with Melta Kelantan chapter. My name is Atira and I'll be moderating today's session. Now, on behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to thank everyone for attending today's session despite your busy schedule. We really appreciate your participation and support. Before we begin, I would like to remind all of you to please fill in your attendance. The link will be provided or has been provided in the chat box below, and you will receive your e-certificate in about 2 weeks' time, inshallah. For UMK staff, this session will also be counted as part of our training hours. So please do not forget to fill in your attendance. I have an announcement to make as well. Due to some technical glitch, we are unable to stream this session live. So instead, we're going to share the recording later on the Melta YouTube channel. And another reminder, if you have any questions, you can either ask during the question and answer session later, or you can just type the questions in the chat box below. All right. Today, we're so honored to have with us Professor Dr. Zuraidah Muhammad Don to share her expertise on the topic of implementing the CFR in English language education, challenges and the way forward. Professor Dr. Zuraidah is a very well-known figure among ELT practitioners. She's a professor at the Language Academy, University Technology Malaysia, and she's also our adjunct professor here at the Faculty of Language Studies and Human Development, UMK. She was the chair of the English Language Standards and Quality Council in the Ministry of Education, responsible for the planning of the English Reform Roadmap 2015 until 2025 as part of the Malaysia Education Blueprint. The roadmap serves, among others, as a guideline for ELT practitioners to align their teaching practice with the CFR. Her work has earned her the award for the top 25 outstanding women listeners in the world 2021 by the Global Listening Center. Now, I'm sure all of us are really eager to learn more about the CFR implementation in our current context of teaching and learning, particularly the challenges that we are facing as language instructors. So let us take this opportunity to learn more from the expert herself. Now, without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Zuraidah to deliver her talk. The floor is all yours, Prof.
Thank you, Atira, for the introduction. Right, I must first of all tell you that the internet is a little bit unstable at the moment, but I think for now it's okay. Can you all hear my voice? Is it quite clear? Yeah.
Prof, we can hear you, but we cannot see you.
You can't see me. Something hide my face, but I'm a bit worried if I click it.
I think you should lower the
something
camera of the laptop.
Can I just
only see half of your face?
Oh, there. Yeah. I was a bit worried to close it in case it closes the whole thing.
No, don't close it. I think you need to adjust the screen.
How do I adjust my? Oh dear, my goodness, why is it like that? Never mind. Anyway. Oh dear.
But we need to see your beautiful face, Prof.
Thank you for that. But I do. Oh, there. Oh, it's coming. It's coming.
Okay,
yes,
good. Definitely better.
Okay, right. Yes, thank you for joining me in this session. As the title explains, this is about implementing the CEFR English language education. And I'm going to talk about the challenges and how we move forward. But more importantly, I think this implementation, I think more important, I'm going to talk about how the CFR has been adopted and adapted in our curriculum and in our assessment, how we have done that, yeah? Now, can we go to the second slide, please? What I'm going to do is that, the second slide, please. Yeah. Okay. Right. I'm going to I'm going to concentrate on the first one, which is about adoption and adaptation of the CFR. And I'm going to concentrate more on the process of adopting and adapting in order to make sure that our curriculum and our assessment are aligned with the CFR, yeah? And schools have already done that. So I'm going to comment on that as well. Right, shall we look at the second one? Now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to talk about, first of all, how the CFR, about the challenges that we face when we decided to align our English language education to, or rather with the CFR. Yeah. Can we go to the third slide, please? Now, first of all, the most difficult challenges at the beginning of the CFR adoption and later implementation is how people perceive the CFR and the attitudes towards the CFR, yeah? So that was a difficult time for all of us. Where the CFR is viewed as the other, it means that the other means as the enemy, yeah? I think now people are beginning to understand a bit what the CFR has to offer for us and how we can exploit the CFR in order to enrich our English language education system and also improve the education system. Yeah. So the question I usually, I wasn't asked this question, but the question asked usually, why should we use a foreign framework? That question itself is difficult to answer because we can only say, why shouldn't we use a foreign framework? You see, I think the word foreign is a little bit unkind here, because to me, anything that can improve ourselves, anything that can empower us to get knowledge it's not foreign. It is more of using whatever there is in order to improve ourselves. And that is a good thing. As Einstein said, or rather, was it Einstein? I can't remember, says, we stand tall on the shoulders of the giants, which means that none of us have knowledge ourselves. The knowledge is derived, either drawn from somewhere or derived from someone. So I think we need to see that knowledge is more of a sharing community, that we share. And by sharing, we get more knowledge, yeah? So this actually knowledge is a humbling process. It is a really humbling process. The arrogance is knocked off our head because we shouldn't be arrogant, because none of us have enough knowledge in order to be arrogant, yeah? So in that way, we have to make sure that we are humble enough to accept whatever is good out there in order to improve ourselves. And more importantly, to improve the English language education system, or for that matter, any education system. The next question people ask me, why aren't we developing our own framework? Let me tell you this. It has taken Europe, not Europe, yeah, we are talking about all the experts in the world, more about 30 years to develop the CFR. By the time we develop our framework, we are not here anymore to implement it. Because coming up with a framework is a long process, particularly when a framework as important as educating our children. This is educating our children. When we educate our children, we must make sure that the framework that we adopt have been verified, have been validated, have been researched, to the extent that the knowledge which is in the framework is a real knowledge that we can use in order to improve ourselves. So that's very important, yeah. Second one, why a common European framework? This is not just Malaysia, everywhere in the world. Why a common European framework? Because they look at the word European. Yeah, they look at European. Unfortunately, I don't know what to say. It started in Europe. Very fortunate, unfortunately, it started in Europe. Yeah, so that's what it was given that. I think if it started in Japan, it would have been Japanese. If it started in Russia, it would have been Russian. If it started in Malaysia, it would have been Malaysian, okay? So that is according to the place where it was so-called born. and they say, I don't teach or study in Europe. This is someone from England said that, because I don't teach and study in Europe, because it is nothing to do with English. It is not to do with any other. It is to do with all the languages in the world that want to align with the common European frame of reference. So the word European, people do not like it because it sounds as if you don't have, why do we have to borrow from Europe? Yeah, so it is not, it's unfortunate that's the name called, but it is not Europe, it is the rest of the world. Yeah, so that's the first one. The second one, which I think these challenges of misconceptions, I have talked about this before, but I'm going to use this misconception in order to say what actually CFR is. I'm not defending whether the CFR is good or not, because that's not the question, because when you are an academic, you're very critical of anything. Yeah, but the thing is that when we are critical, we are more interested in improving ourselves rather than destroying ourselves. So that's why we have to be critical. So that the criticalness in us enables us to ask questions, how I can use this framework in order to improve the English language education system? What is the strength of this framework and what is the weakness? Yeah, so that's a question we need to ask ourselves. So we're going to talk about misconception, this faulty thinking, faulty understanding what the CFR is. Number three, the third problem, or rather the third challenges most people when they decide, not just Malaysian, all over the world, when they decide to use the CFR, they say there are so many specialized terms to the extent that it requires knowledge of applied linguistics. And some people say pragmatics and sociolinguistics, which are in the realm of applied linguist or linguist. So the terms are very difficult to understand. Yes, I do agree with this. But as I said, when you are an academic, this is quite normal to us. But when we talk to teachers, then we don't have to introduce all these terms. So it depends for what purpose you are using the CFR. Are you using it? Are you using the CFR in order to improve your teaching? If that's the case, and to help your students to improve themselves in order to communicate, then all the terms that are in the CFR are not important. What is more important is understanding the philosophy behind language learning and language teaching, the philosophy of the CFR, which supports the ability of our students to communicate in English, yeah, in the social world, and to be able to perform in a way that is required for them to function. If, for example, they go to university, they can function in university. They get a job, they can function in their place of work. If they decide to continue to do their master's or PhD, they can function and use English in order to complete their master's degree or PhD. That's what we are saying here. We're saying we're looking at English as a tool in order to improve ourselves, as the means that we give our students so that they can help themselves. Whether they can use the means to help themselves, that is another question. But we shouldn't, as I tell people all the time, but we shouldn't take away the opportunity for our students to improve themselves. And that is not right, yeah. The third, so we're going to look at that, number three. The fourth one is you're talking about how are we going to exploit the CFR so that we can produce a curriculum that integrates teaching and assessment. How are we going to do that? Yeah. So we are all trying to do it here at the moment. School sort of in the process of doing it. Schools have done it and they are in the process of implementing. Universities are doing it for the curriculum. They are now trying to align, and some universities have done so. Some universities are in the process of aligning their curriculum with the CFR. And of course, when you talk about curriculum, assessment have to be aligned as well. So in that situation, of course, when you want to do the alignment, very important for us, first of all, to set the proficiency target. Because if you don't have a target, you don't know what you're supposed to teach, know what you're supposed to test. So what the CFR does is that it gives us that, the what do you call that? The opportunity or the chance to be able to set a target. Yeah, we look at the CFR, we can just which target we want and understand what it's all about. Number two, we're going to look at how the CFR help us to define our learning outcomes. University, we call that learning outcomes. At school, maybe you call that objectives, yeah? Using the can-do descriptors. This is a way forward for all of us. And the next one is how we're going to assess, yeah, and monitor progress. Because one thing about learning is that there must be a starting point, yeah, and there must be an ending, okay? Particularly if a course at university, you have 14 weeks, yeah. For school, it's a bit different. So if you have 14 weeks of class, when they enter at this level, it is hoped that we can then move them up one level perhaps, yeah, and they exit that level. Okay, so we're going to look at that as well. So we're going to look at a curriculum assessment within these 2 hours if we can. Right, next. First of all, as I said just now, next slide, please. Yep, that the CFR has got what we call all the difficult terms. And these terms, we are not so familiar with them unless, of course, you are working in this area. We are not familiar with them. But most, if you are from applied linguistics, you are in that area. If you do a BA or MA in applied linguistics, you'll be able to understand those terms. But you have not done, you will not. So these are some of the terms that are very important in the CFR that require certain kind of understanding. As I said, if teachers work at school, you don't have to tell them this. Don't have to use the terms. Yeah. So, for example, the action-oriented approach, this is very difficult to understand, particularly if you go and read the CFR companion or the blue book, because it's described in such a way, so detailed. But what you need to know is that in order for someone to communicate, you see, the CFR looks at the use of English language as performing. You perform using the language. Yeah. So this is what it calls action-oriented. What do you do when you use English? Okay. So you look at the learner as a social agent. Why social agent? Because we are talking about people communicating in the social context, so social agents. And in order for them to use English, in order to accomplish a task, this task is usually language-oriented. Like, for example, right, if you ask your student to write an essay, right? Our student writing an essay at B1, yeah, university, or say A2 school, then they should be able to use English in order to write an essay and to communicate their thought. Okay, so an A2 student, for example, just finished primary school, yeah, going to secondary school, an A2 student, there's a typo error there. Going to primary school, secondary, just say, for example, in Form 3, writing an essay, yeah, maybe an A2 essay about the self, about going for a holiday. You cannot expect that, so you have, for example, an A2 university student writing an essay as well. So in terms of content, you cannot compare, because university student in terms of age is much older than a 15-year-old boy, a young man, I would say, a young adult in school. However, if you look at the language, yeah, both students, are able to use language in order to describe something which is within their environment, yeah. Use simple words or use what do you call that, connectives, yeah, or connectors in order to show what do you call that, development of event in terms sequential development of event, first, second, then. Yeah, this is typical A2 ability. And the same with university students who are performing A2, they are able to do that. So these are the things that, so when we talk about that CFR is action-oriented approach, we are talking about trying to help our students to use English in order to function in a social context, yeah, at their level. Is that okay? At that level, all right? So we don't have to go into technicality of it. So teachers who are teaching in class just need to know that you just teach your students to communicate, at the level that they are at, at the level, at their own level, and making sure that people can understand what they say. So if it's a B1 student, they can go beyond themselves to give even simple opinion. Yeah, they can say simple, I think, they cannot say my view. They usually say, I think, I feel, maybe a little bit, but they can describe their feeling. They associate feel and think almost the same. Yeah. So, but they can talk about, they can give opinion, although they cannot actually, they can just give opinion and perhaps provide the reason for the opinion, very simple reason for the opinion. That's a B1 ability. When it comes to B2, you can do higher than that. Giving opinion, can give reason, can also exemplify. Yeah, can exemplify and can go beyond arranging their sentences in sequence. They can go beyond that, not just sequence first, second, they can go beyond that. So that is an action-oriented approach. So I'm not going to talk about all this. I'm going to say that these are some of the terms which are used in the CFR, which cause a lot of problem to people, unless you are doing, in this area, you are applied linguist and all. So my advice to all of us is that, number one is that if you have students at university doing doing a TESOL or applied linguistics, then I think you all should teach them these terms in applied linguistics. These are terms in applied linguistics, very important terms, which will make them understand the CFR better. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why CFR tends to be a bit difficult. Right. Now, so talking about terms, as I said, I'm not going to talk about terms because what I'm going to say is that these are the challenges that we face when we try to use the CFR in order to align our curriculum and assessment with the CFR. That's a problem we are facing, all of us, yeah. And my LHAM group have a lot of difficulty. There are other terms which are sometimes very ambiguous and very difficult to understand, very abstract, and they have to understand that first before they can work on coming up with task specifications. So that's quite normal when you try to gain new knowledge. When you try to gain new knowledge, we need to understand the concepts and so on. So for people like us who are developing assessment, people like us who are doing the curriculum, then we need to know these terms. We need to be clear. But for teachers in class who teach, they don't need to know. But if they know, it's good, but they don't have to know. Yeah, because if it makes them confused and make all of us confused and make all of us concentrate on the definition rather than teaching in class, then forget it. It's not that important. See what I mean? More important for teachers to enable our students to communicate in class. How do you do that? Yeah, to give them the confidence to be able to communicate in class, yeah, and to make them understand that even at A1, even at that level, you can still talk, you can still write, but the way you write, the way you talk is different from a B1, a B2 or a B2 student. Okay, so this is what we need to understand. Right, can we go to the next slide? Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, oh dear, that's not good. Now, the other, just now there are so many terms, sociolinguistic competence, pragmatic competence, yeah, all sorts of terms. And another thing, which if you are writing a test, an assessment or a test paper, if you are developing curriculum, you need to know this, but teachers need not know this. If they want to use the word listening, speaking, that's okay. Now the CEFR has sort of redefined the traditional 4 skills: listening, reading, writing. Yeah, listening, reading, speaking, and writing. And not to say, what they have done is they have expanded the term. Because if you talk about speaking, you do not know whether you're talking about production, oral production, or you're talking about oral interaction. You see what I mean? So if you're talking about production, you are just interested in communicating what you think to another. Just, like me talking at the moment, of course, when you ask me a question, I have to interact. Yeah. But at the moment, you're just talking to whoever. Yeah. So that's production. Whereas interaction, you involve more. So for us to sort of tell those people who are teaching in class, our teachers, yeah, especially the senior ones, yeah, who are more comfortable with the term listening, with the term speaking, reading, writing, I don't see any problem at all. Yeah, I don't see any problem at all. Because to me, that's what you want to use. But what is more important is that when you're talking about speaking, you have to take into account that we as human beings, we just don't talk. It's very strange for us, like me, in my situation now, where I talk, you listen. Very strange. Yeah, you just listen. So I would feel like, for example, because this is I'm doing the presentation. Just let's say we go out for tea together. You come with me for tea as my friend. I'm talking and you just keep quiet. I feel strange. So there is that part of us. We have to interact. So all of us must know that we teach speaking. We do not just teach producing the language, production, but we also teach our students how to communicate in the form of interaction. So that's why the CFR has sort of not expanded the term speaking to say speaking includes oral production and oral interaction. Writing includes written production and written interaction, because there are some forms of writing which require some kind of interaction. Okay, and if I can add here, I would want to have an interactive session with you. If you have questions, just ask me. Yeah, put on the chat if you like, so that we have a more interactive session, be more interesting. Okay, and then you ask me difficult question, I'll find that quite challenging. Okay, right. So what I'm saying is that, so that's why they have changed to this: production, oral, written, interaction, oral, written, as well as mediation. Okay, what is mediation? And this is another term, mediation. Mediation is, I'll put it this way. Let's say you want to communicate with someone who can't speak English, who doesn't speak Malay, for example, a person from another country, from Russia, for example, or from Saudi Arabia, doesn't speak Malay. Yeah. So what do? You then, if you can speak Arabic, you speak Arabic, isn't that right? If you can't, you have a translator to translate Arabic to English or to Malay. Then you answer it, whatever language that the translator understands. So you have a three-way thing instead of two. Okay, so that is mediation. Mediation means you use a medium to help the other person understand you. It's not about you. It is making people understand you. So that's mediation. Yeah. So for example, if someone is hard of hearing, deaf people say you're hard of hearing, you cannot use the word deaf now. It's not politically correct. Hard of hearing. So in order to communicate, what do? You have a medium. So if you know sign language, you use sign language. That's mediation. If you don't know sign language, you use someone who can use sign language. That is called mediation. Okay, so but today we're not going to concentrate on mediation. What I'm saying is that here I'm still talking about the terminologies in the CFR that are a challenge for all of us. Yeah, for all of us. I remember when I first read the CFR, I said, oh, this is not easy. So, when I first read CFR, that was when I first started doing the roadmap. I said, oh my goodness. Wow, it's tough. But as you begin to understand more, it gets easier. Of course, you still get confused. That's quite normal in learning. Nobody learns without getting confused. I remember the more confused you become, the more you learn. Because somehow your brain is created by God in such a way that the more confused you become, at the end of the tunnel, you see light. And suddenly you say, oh my goodness, that's quite easy after all. Yeah, but of course it needs a lot of effort. Okay, so that's why the CFR in that way, it does challenge all of us because of the terms that have been used, in that this is one of the critiques of the CFR. One of the critiques of the CFR. All right. So if you see that I put here, you can't see, this is in the CFR book. You can see that interaction is divided into oral interaction, written interaction, online interaction, and you have strategies. What it's saying is that, so this is another difficulty we find, that when you talk about your ability to interact or to talk or to write, it doesn't just include the ability to interact orally, but it also includes the strategies. Like, for example, according to interaction, yeah. So you do not just interact being able to use language, being able to understand what people say, being able to communicate, respond to what people say. You also must learn turn taking. If you interact, so when you teach your student how to interact, they must learn about turn taking. You also learn about cooperating. How do I cooperate with others so that other people can also contribute? And you also learn about asking for clarification, because when people talk, you need to understand. You ask for clarification. These are strategies which are also part of the ability to interact. So what the CEFR tells us is that the ability to interact is just not, being able to converse, being able to discuss, being able to understand your interlocutors, and so on. It also involves strategies. So you've got to also teach strategies to your student, how to interact, yeah, how to take turns, yeah, how to ask for clarification, okay, how to cooperate. I remember, our A2 students, when they did MUET, the teacher will always tell them, when you are put in a group discussion, okay, you have to ask for clarification. So the standard clarification is, can you, the standard, yes, I do agree with you. Can you tell me more? Or can you, I need to understand more. Can you tell me, that's one that they always use. Yes, I agree. But I agree, but can you give me a reason? Something like that, in a sense that instead of being able to ask for clarification, you see, what they don't do is that they have some general, because we teachers are very good at preparing our students for things like this. So they have some general expressions that you can use in any situation. Standard expressions, I'm sure you must have taught your students that. And sometimes they use those expressions without listening to whatever that was said by the speaker. So whatever they say is not actually what we call relevant to whatever that was said before. Then you know that this must be standard expression taught by teachers in class. Okay, so what the students need to do is that they must, when they interact, they must be able to ask for clarifications. But remember, ask for clarifications are at different level, yeah? So A1, A2, don't expect them to ask for clarification. They will not be able to ask. By the time they are B1, they should be able to, yeah? B2, and of course, when they are C2, it's nothing to them to ask for clarifications. Yeah? That is when you interact. So what I'm saying is that you can see just in this, there's alone an interaction, some terminologies need to be clarified, yeah, which need to be clarified, yeah. And they were talking about not just interaction, we're talking about so many. So that's the reason why some people find the CFR difficult to understand. So my advice to all of us is that don't tell our friend, go and read the CFR book. They will not understand. And they say, my goodness, why am I supposed to read this blue book, so difficult to understand? Or read a companion? Oh dear, yeah, you can't. Unless, of course, you are doing assessment, you're doing curriculum, where you do need to understand more. Okay, all right, so let us go on to the next. So these are some of the challenges. Can we go to the next slide, please? This one, I've talked about this before. You see, when I was in the LSQC, we were asked to write an an article about this, a newspaper article to, in order to, Datin Mazia and I, in order to make people understand what CFR is not. Because sometimes, you see, because the CFR is quite new to us, but now it's not anymore. Well, we in ELT, we know about it, but people outside ELT may not know about it. So there are lots of misconceptions about the CFR. I'm not going to belabor on misconception, but I'm going to use the misconception to describe the CFR. So that's a route for me, looking at the misconceptions and then explaining what the CFR is. Okay, can we go on to the next slide, please? Okay, this is the first one. I think you have heard this before. The CFR is the reform plan, which means that CFR is actually the roadmap when it says. So people thought that the CFR is the reform. It is a reform, the plan for reform. Yeah. Now, well, it is not actually. It is an international standard for describing and measuring language proficiency. It's just a standard. It's not the reform. The reform is the roadmap, but CFR is a standard. What we're saying here is that when we say curriculum and assessment must be aligned with international benchmark, this is in MEB, that means international standards, which means that we have a reference. All of us know that. All of you have been working on this reference. Then we use this reference in order to improve in order to make changes to our curriculum and assessment. And then we can declare that we have benchmarked, yeah, our what do you call that, assessment with international benchmark, international standards, or we have aligned. So the benchmark is a standard, okay? The alignment itself is aligning with or to the standards. So what you all are doing it now, by now you all should know, yeah. But there are sometimes there is a misunderstanding, thinking that the CFR is the reform. The CFR is not the reform. The CFR is the standard that we align our education with the CFR. We look at the next one. Now, okay, this explains it. So I'm going to more explain it. Now, when we talk about the CFR, we have chosen the CFR as a standard for alignment that has been chosen, yeah, by the nation. By doing that, it makes it possible for us to do these three. Yeah. Number one is to set the target proficiency. Now, all of you now at university, schools have been done, yeah, schools, the alignment have been done, they have the curriculum framework, but those of you who are in school, or maybe, I think post-secondary has already done it, but university, we are doing it now, even in school. So if you don't have the CFR, we will not be able to set the proficiency target. Yeah, we may be able to say this is elementary, this is what do you call that, advanced, intermediate, but we will not be able to set according to A2, A2, A1, B1, with all the descriptors telling us how to make the alignment. Yeah. So those of you who have gone through the process of alignment, either with me, with someone else, you're beginning to see now why we are aligning our curriculum and our assessment with the CFR. Yeah. Number one, as you all know, when you all do the alignment, I will say, what is your exit target? What is your entry target? What is your exit? Yeah. So if you enter, your student enter, for example, A2, and if you want to bring them out one band higher, that means B1. So you know that you are bringing your students from A2 to B1. Not, you don't start at B1. Yeah, you bring where your students start. Where is a starting point for your student? They may be at B2 high, or A2 high. So you bring them up, all right, and you put the exit for your curriculum as B1. Yeah, so you bring that journey. So there is a journey. This is what we call the journey, proficiency journey of your student as when they enroll for the course, yeah, at university, enroll for the course, you bring them through that journey, then they will exit your course B1, yeah, at CFR level B1. Okay, for school, they already set it. You know what, for school, yeah, they have pre-A1, they have A1, A2, B1, B2, and so on. But for university, you all have to set your, that's a bit different. University, because each course is designed. You have a special course designed, a special course. Oh, there's a chat there. Is it possible to share? I think it's going to be shared, right? I think so. Yeah. So, it is, then you can design a course for your course, those at university, yeah, because you all have your own course. So if you have, say, report writing at exit B1, let's say, yeah, report writing exit B1, and you take students at A2, then you have to bring them up to B1. It can be low B1 or high B1, doesn't matter, but the B1 that they have to achieve, yeah. Okay, so from A2 to B1 and report writing. And school is a bit different, but university, you can focus on one skill and specific context, which is much easier, yeah. Now, next one, you can define, describe. Once you've got this, you have set the target, you can define the target, okay? You all know that you all write the synopsis, yeah, and you write the learning outcomes. that's your defining the level. But again, yours is very, university is very focused, yeah. At school is more general proficiency, yeah, that's a bit different, yeah. So because for me, schools have already done, they have done theirs, yeah, they are more at implementation level, implementing whatever they have. University has not yet implementing. You are at the level of adopting and adapting. That's the level you are in now. It's quite not so stressful, quite a challenging time for all of us, but it's okay. This challenging time is very nice for us because it makes us think more and you make our brain work over time. I think that's good for us. Okay, so define, describe the targets, what targets you have, and then you relate the target in the teaching as well in the assessment of English language in school, yeah, in university to the CFR levels. So, okay, so that's, so if you see that for school, pre-A1, see that one? This is target for school, pre-A1, before coming to, they are at preschool, okay? So, but pre-A1, they don't really sit for exam. They just sing and dance. They just enjoy themselves. As long as they can talk and sing and dance, do all sorts of things that they love doing, that's okay. It's only when they go to primary, they are supposed to behave a bit, yeah? So they leave primary at A2, yeah? They leave secondary at B1, post-secondary at B2. They come to university, we bring them up, hopefully, again to B2, and those like TESOL teachers, English teachers, those doing English language and doing TESOL, and I think medical students as well, C1, leaving university C1. So that's up to university to determine. All right. So what I'm saying is that when people say the CFR is the plan, it is not. The CFR is not the plan, but the CFR is what we call a resource for us to use in order, number one, to set the target for our course. Number two, to define and describe the target level that you have adopted or used. And number three, once you've got the target, to relate the teaching and assessment of English language, university and school to that CFR target. Okay, so in a way, the CFR helped us a lot. Even it's difficult to understand, yeah, but it has helped us a lot. It has helped. I mean, my group will never be able to come up with a roadmap for CFR alignment without the CFR. It's almost unimaginable. But because of the CFR, we're able to set the targets, and then we're able to suggest activities that will bring us to achieve our target. Okay, so that's why you see the roadmap there. It's a detailed timetable implementation plan. And this implementation plan outlines the route that we have to follow for 11 years. 11 years, yeah. So don't say, how come they are not at C1 yet? How come they are not at B2? Please, kita baru mula naik kereta api tu. Yeah, so we are just beginning our journey. Of course, we're now in the second stage of the journey, going to third. But learning takes a long time, yeah. Learning takes a long time. But one thing about learning, I find that the time taken to learn is long. But once you have learned, it will be there with you. The knowledge is there with you forever. Forever, inshallah, yeah. I'm talking unless, of course, you have exam. That's something else. If you don't have that, you can still have that knowledge with you. Yeah, we lose money, we lose everything, but knowledge is with us. That's one thing good about knowledge. Okay, so that's why it is different. So 11 years, we hope that in 2025, our students can achieve all the targets we set. But as I said, once you have the target, if you don't achieve this target, you can come up with intervention plan, intervention programs. So in life, we have to have targets. The same with education, we have to have targets. Only with targets, we are able to monitor our progress. Yeah, only with targets we can monitor our progress. Okay, can we look at the next one, please? Any questions so far? No, you are okay there, all of you?
Yeah, I think, sorry, Prof.
Yes,
I think we have a few
yeah.
questions in the chat box. If you would like to address them now, or you prefer to
It's
address
okay.
them
If it's relevant to what I said, I think it'd be quite good to discuss that.
All right, so we have a question by Dr. Warid. Summative assessments at primary and lower secondary are no longer aligned to the CFR. What is your take on this matter, Prof?
That I think that will be the decision I would rather not comment on. My personal opinion, this is my personal opinion. If you align your curriculum with the CFR or to the CFR, then assessment should also be aligned. That's my opinion. Because you can't teach something and assess something else. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. That is logical. That's a logic human being. I mean, as you know. So when you go to class, so for example, your university are doing the alignment now, yeah? So now you're beginning to understand a bit, and you all can tell us what you feel about the alignment university. We can share them because we want to improve ourselves. So you're doing the alignment now. So once you've done your curriculum and your pro forma, everything, then you decide, no, we're not going to use the CFR to assess. We're going to do something else. Now, in terms of the reasoning behind it, if you are an academic, yeah, you talk about knowledge, you tend to think, why are we doing this? Why do we test something? Where do you teach something using that particular way of doing thing, and you decide to test using something else? You see, the problem is that, that's why I said, unfortunate for the CFR, it becomes the other. Yeah. We shouldn't use the CFR as the other. We should look at the CFR as knowledge that we can obtain for ourselves and for our young people in order to improve the English language education system. You see what I mean? Because to me, what I feel throughout my career as an academic, that when you learn something, it is a humbling process. So when I know about the CFR, yeah, it is a humbling process because it reveals to me that I don't know enough. When I started teaching English, when I was at the age of 27, just came back from England. All I know is that I have a book and I have to teach. And I was sad that knowledge of the CFR came to me very late in life. Yeah. It's not that I want to support anything which is foreign. That's, to me, I'm not made that way because I have my own way of thinking. For me, it's more what knowledge you can gain from that. You see, once you strengthen yourself, yeah, yourself as an individual, and you're able to develop a curriculum based on the knowledge you have gained, and you're able to integrate the curriculum with assessment, you assess what you teach, then you'll come out with a program which is catered to the needs of our students. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah, because when you teach, you assess. So instead of assessment driven, it is teaching driven, learning driven. It is a curriculum that should be heading, not assessment. Yeah, but so if you align the curriculum with CFR, then assessment should be aligned as well. Okay, so that's my take as an individual. Yeah. Okay, all right. Oh, that's okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank
All right.
you. Yeah, thank you so much. So this is that's I'm going to talk about misconception, because this misconception is actually real. It's actually real. Not in the sense that there is a lot of it's put it this way: when a knowledge is positioned as the enemy, then any new knowledge become an enemy. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. So the enemy need not just be human being. The enemy can also be knowledge. Yeah. So that's why, and I said, sometimes we look at knowledge in a different light. But if all of us believe that knowledge comes from the Almighty, then we will never be against knowledge. Yeah. Unless it is not real knowledge. Yeah. It's fake news. That's something else. That's something else. Next one, the misconception. CFR is an exam. This one I can understand why people misunderstand CFR an exam, because they look at the exam. They started knowing CFR. They know about the CFR from IELTS, TOEFL. Do you see what I mean? So when they look at IELTS and TOEFL and CFR aligned, so there is this connection between CFR is an exam. Of course it is not. Yeah, all of us know that, but those people who are not trained in ELT or in applied linguistics may not know that. So we cannot blame them because they are not from our area of expertise. Yeah, and in fact, the CFR is not focused on assessment at all. It's not. It actually aims to help teachers improve the quality of language learning and teaching by identifying what you need to do in order to improve our students' use of the language. So assessment is actually secondary, not primary. However, what people do is that they use the CFR descriptors, the levels, CFR levels, A1, A2, B1, B2, and the can-do descriptors in order to describe, what do you call that? Assessment. So for example, IELTS and TOEFL, afterwards I'll show you all how they use the descriptors in the CFR in their assessment in order to show that at A2 students can do this, B1 students can do this, and so on. Yeah, I'll show you later when we go into the CFR proper. Okay, so there's this problem that CFR is an examination, which is not. Go on. Can we go on to the next slide? This is the other one. This is a classic this I heard myself. The CFR is a variety of English, which is not. Yeah, because we don't have CFR English. Yeah, so we don't say CFR English. We don't have European English. There's no such thing as European English. We don't have international English because there's no international English. So all these terms are not there. But we do have Malaysian English, British English, New Zealand English, and all that. And we have the world Englishes, a variety of Englishes. So CFR is not there. You see that, it's not there. Okay, so we can't say that. All right, we go to the next one. This is a quick look at, okay, this one, this is dangerous. Where some people think, that Malaysian children's proficiency will be evaluated against native speaker proficiency. CFR has nothing to do with native speaker at all. It is actually for foreign speakers of the language. CFR is developed for foreign speakers of any language, French, Italian, English, whatever language you want, once you align to the CFR. In fact, Arabic, I think they are doing that as well. Malay is going to do that. Chinese is doing that. Yeah, so that is an international framework. But what you do when you adopt the CFR is that our children's ability is measured against this. You see that? Yeah. For example, if you look at that for reading, yeah, we look at A2. Just look at A2, sorry, for reading. Look at reading. Yeah, compare A1, A2 as we go up. Okay, so this is standard. This is not native speaker. Definitely not native speaker. And some native speaker are not as good as some of our good students. Because native speaker doesn't mean that your English is, it depends on the situation you use English. If you use English in a conference, it doesn't mean that you're native speaker, you can present at a conference. It's not. Yeah. It's a different kind of language altogether. Okay, so if you look at A1, can understand very short, simple text, the single phrases at a time. Yeah, nothing native speaker about that. It's best to look at speaking, because maybe students cannot read even though they can speak English. Yeah, so if you look at speaking, can enter in a simple way, but communication is totally dependent on repetition. That's not native speaker. Yeah, that's about A1 students who needs help in order to interact. Okay, so if you go up and if you go to C2 there, the highest, maybe you look at C1, can express himself fluently and spontaneously. Okay, so whether you're native speaker or not, that's irrelevant. For the CFR, it is according to the level. It's not native speaker, but according to the level. Yeah, and these levels have got descriptors describing what you can do at different levels. Okay, so, and you are not expected to sound like native speakers or achieve the same level of mastery. You are not expected to do that. That's not a CFR. So let's say if our students, we have our crème de la crème, yeah, our university students achieve C2, yeah, achieve C2, speaking, for example. You give them the speaking course and this particular student excel and he's almost a C2 or he's a C2. Then he has a good command of idiomatic expression. Yes, idiomatic expression usually what you call that native speaker, because they are used to the language, they are very good at idiomatic expression. Now, for a non-native speaker to be able to use idiomatic expression, that's C2. We don't expect all our students to be C2. We can't have all Malaysian having C2, can we? No. So what we're saying here is that it's nothing to do with against native speaker proficiency. It's far from it. It is the proficiency of the student is measured against set criteria and according to the target level. And each target level has set criteria. Yeah, as you can see there. Okay, so this again a misconception. Right, shall we look at the next one? Okay, now we have all this, as I said, misconceptions about the CFR, which I hope by now we don't have that misconceptions anymore, because I think we need to go beyond that to be more positive in looking at it more of empowering us. Yeah. So once we have enough knowledge, we don't even have to refer to it anymore. But again, if I look at the CFR, the document keeps on improving itself. And it's free for all of us. So we can get knowledge free of charge, FOC. Yeah. And they give us is if you just download from the internet, the companion into 2020, and they will come up with new ones, 2021 and 20, and every time they improve on the descriptors, which I find quite amazing. Yeah, quite amazing. And they don't sell it, it's free of charge. Okay, the way forward. Now, what do we need to do? Yeah. Now, well, I think, as I said, we need to look at the CFR as how it can help us to improve ourselves, how it can help us to improve our education system. And not just that, not to improve the system, but to improve ourselves so that we can help our students to improve themselves. That's more important. Yeah. And in order for us to understand, what does it mean to be able to write, say, an essay at A2 level? What does it mean to be able to interact with people at B1 level? What does it mean to be able to have a formal discussion, informal discussion with others at B2 level? What does it mean? This is what I think we should look at. How we can use the CEFR as resources in order to improve not just ourselves, but more importantly, by improving ourselves, we can improve our teaching, we can improve the assessment, and by doing that, we can help our students to improve themselves. That knowledge is precious. That knowledge, that we actually understand what we want to achieve, and we can help our students achieve that level of proficiency, which will make them feel good about themselves. Okay, feel good about themselves. As we can say, not every student can achieve B2. Not every student can do that. What we want to do is to help our students to move up a bit. But by the time they finish school, they should be able to speak to people, to interact with others, and make people understand what they say. I think that's more important than just having good grammar, a good pronunciation. Okay, right. Now, let us look at the way forward. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Okay, right. Now, why do I say, everybody knows that CEFR is a framework of reference, but I think we need to understand the word framework. What is a framework of reference? When you look at something as a framework, you're actually not controlled by the framework. You're not controlled by it. You're just looking at it as a reference in order to empower yourself, in order to enable you to use that framework of reference to improve your own practice. It is not to control you. Because it is just a framework and it is a reference. So we need to understand that. So there's no way that we can say that we are a slave to the reference, because it's just a reference. And this reference is, when we talk about improving ourselves, we try to refer to something which has been validated, which has been accepted. Of course, in anything we do, there are always weaknesses. This is done by human beings, as we say that. There are always weaknesses in the framework that we use. But that doesn't matter, because the weaknesses, we can try to improve on that. If there are, what we are interested in, the strength of that framework they're using as a framework of reference. Shall we look at that? Go on to the next one, please. Right. Now, yes. Can you all see the slide? Is it too small? Yep. Is it too small? Maybe we can make it bigger. I don't know, maybe my eyesight is not that good. Okay, right. But you can refer to the companions there. Okay, now, what is a thing that helps us to improve ourselves? If you look at all this, the CEFR, and you find that there are 4 skills here, and each of the skill, has 6 levels here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, of course, pre-A1. That's for preschool. So when we look at this, what most important for me especially, when I look at this, what I see is, of course, sometimes the demarcation between one level and the next is not easy to see. But at least it helps us to see in what way is an A1 student, reading a text different from A2 student reading a text? In what way is a B1 student different from a B2 student reading a text? And in what way a C1 student different from a C2 student reading a text? So as you go up, you can see the difference. And what is interesting is that, if you look at A1, let us look at writing, because we're talking about speaking. Look at writing. If you look at writing from A1, if you can see that. Now, the focus is on, personal details, something just personal, very personal to him, like talking about himself, talking about his family, writing about his family, himself, his friend. Is more personal. Okay, so that's very good for primary student, because as a child can only see what is closest to him, his mom, his friends, his classmates, and so on. If you go up there, okay, now then if you go up to A2, okay, you can write but short. Okay, you can start writing, then the length starts coming in, short. The first one, just write. Okay, and you can hear, they don't actually write, they just can pass on personal details in written form. It's not a piece of writing, it's just certain details, but these details are in written form. It's not, the sentences are not joined together. You may have one sentence or phrases that they write, but these are in written form and about themselves. But if you look at 2, they can write already, short, which means that they may be able to write 2 sentences, and these sentences seem to be somehow logically connected with each other. Okay, now move up. Now, if you look at B1, you see the word letters there? This is a genre. If you look at A2 can just write short. It's not a genre, something short, something simple. But when you're a B1 student, you should be able to write a letter, right? Or maybe write messages on, in WhatsApp, but WhatsApp is too short. But a letter or little notes. And you look at, there is a function there, asking. If you look at A2, there is no function yet, just relating to matters which are of immediate need. But by the time they come to B1, students can already write, or can already function, can ask for something, can convey something. But that whatever they convey is simple information and still of immediate relevance. You can see the movement, of proficiency, the increase in proficiency from A1, A2, B1. So genre comes at B1. Can write a letter, little notes. Now look at B2. Now B2 students can express, a B2 student can express himself already. You can give views in writing. You're talking about writing, not speaking, Then they can express news and also views. They can just talk about news, any news. And they can also, more importantly, write their views in written form. And if you see the word effectively, a B2, effective is very important. At A2, B1, effective is not important. If the students cannot write effectively, he's still a B1 student. The requirement of effective writing is at B2. So this gives us an idea how a student moves from A1 writing, just pass on personal details in written form, to A2, where they start writing short notes, short letters, B1, where they start writing a genre, a letter, little notes, to B2, where the writing is effective. So effectiveness is a B2 ability. Now we go up to C1. Now you see the word express. Now at C1, the ability is clarity. They are clear. Not just that, they are precise. Precision comes in. So if your student at B2 writes something which is not precise, it's okay, because that is not a B2 ability. It is a C1 ability. Clarity and precision are C1 ability. If you go up further, you look at C2. C2, beyond clarity, beyond precision, what is more important is smooth, yeah, clear and smooth, where the writings develop smoothly and with clarity, and the text is complete. If you look at that one, complete text, and the structure is logical. Now you introduce structure. So C2 student must write in a logical structure. If you teach B2 C1 student and the structure is not that logical, somehow it's not that logical, well, it's okay because he's still a C1. C1, more importantly, is clarity and precision. And C2, the student should be able to write complex text. And the complex texts are logically structured. Of course, the text has to be clear. More importantly, not just clear, but smooth. So smooth is a feature of C2. So if you read a piece of writing, which is not smooth, okay, not smooth, which means that this student is not yet a C2 student. But you can see that the students write very clearly, there's clarity and precise. And he writes and the information is precise. That is a B2, a C1 ability. This is what I'm trying to say. So the CFR tells you that. How can that be wrong? How can that be wrong for us to know this? Yeah. For us to be able to know this so that when I look at my student writing, I say, oh, okay, very good, you're writing, very good. But we know that this student is not yet a C2 student. He's not yet a C1 student. He's still at level B2 because his writing is effective. Yes, he can express news and views and effective, but precision is not yet there. He might be at the precise, but you know that it's not really that precise. Okay, he makes mistakes when transfer some information into his writing, and also not clear, not that clear. There are certain sentences which are not clear, whereas B2, these are the features of B2. Is that okay? So you can see that. So if you are able to see that, how students can move from one. So these are just some, as I said, some of the features that give you some idea where the student is. I remember years ago, we were looking at the performance of some students. Yeah, there are 3 students. It's 4 students discussing, and we were supposed to give marks to the students to assign, not marks, the level, because we're trying to do some standardization. And we know that these students are good, but how good are they? And this one particular student, there seems to be a little bit of disagreement among us, this particular student. I gave that student, this particular student, I gave that student B2. And others gave the student C1. Yeah. So I was explaining why I give the student B2, not C1. Because I said, he, of course, used all these bombastic words because he somehow remembered those words. But what he lacked is clarity, I said. The certain parts with sentences, certain sentences that he said, I couldn't get what he said. So clarity, he's not that clear in what he said. And the other thing I said is not precise. The information given, he interprets information, but the information is wrongly interpreted. Precision is again a C1. So I said he is a high B2, but he's not a C1. Yeah. But others were impressed by the use of big words, bombastic words. Yeah. CFR is not about using the big words. If you use difficult words, but you do not know how to use those words, you can never be a C1 student or a C2. A C2 student, yeah. If you see a C2 student performing, he can show his ability by, you see, when he talks, C2, if you look at C2, talking is easier, yeah. But here it's not that clear. But one thing about C2 is that it is smooth. The other thing is very comfortable. When he speaks a language, you can see that he's very comfortable in using the language. If he makes mistake, he just correct the mistakes, just like that. Yeah, and smooth. Most importantly, yeah, for a student, a C2 usually is the smoothness, not clarity, it's beyond clarity. Logically structured, yeah, is beyond effective. And the other thing is being able to say what you say in a way that everybody understands what you say, and all of you were sort of glued. What I mean is that you just listen to this, like, wow. And sometimes when something is said in a simple way on something which is complex, that person is a C2. When a person is given a complex topic, but that person is able to deliver that topic in a way that is so simple, I'm talking about a student, yeah, then that student is definitely a C2. All right? Okay. So, and of course, the use of idiomatic expression, when we expect that. Okay, so now what I'm saying is that by looking at the CFR this way, you can see how the CFR can help us to understand, yeah, why this student is better than that student. It gives us some idea. Of course, as I said, it is not totally, it's not easy to do that, but by listening, if you like I said, if you just listen to that person talking, yeah, now you know that, our student is a C2 student. Just the way he speaks it. And it's what you call with ease. That's another thing. You speaks with ease. Yeah, with ease. All right. And when they write something, look at the writing, you find it so easy to understand. And that is a classic C2 ability. Okay, right. So all this make the CFR is a framework that you use in order to describe the language ability and for you to assess that student. More importantly, for you to teach that student how to be a C2 student and to assess that student more appropriately. Yeah. Okay. Right. So that is why it is a framework for describing all this. All right. Can we go to the next one? Now, another thing which I think is also important is that, you see, people tend to think that the CFR does not give much attention to grammar. Yes, I do agree on that score, in the sense that because the CFR is just a framework. Yeah, the framework means it is not too detailed. The input for grammar is not much, but there is a section called communicative language competences, where you do have more detailed description of the language. Yeah. So, for example, let us look at this. This is a companion page 130. Yeah. And you look at, this is what we call general linguistic range. Okay. It doesn't specify what, because remember, the CFR is for all languages. So you can't expect it to say something about English. You must remember that. Yeah. We adapt it for English. This is for all languages. So that's why it is general, because it is for all languages, human language, not just English language. But if you want to use it for English, then you have to specify. When you say simple expressions, what are simple expressions in English? That we have to provide. Just what I'm trying to say, you need to provide what are simple expressions in English, which about yourself, when students talk about himself. Yeah, and A1 student talking about him, like, my name is Amina. Okay, very good. Yeah, I like ice cream. Okay, you see? Yeah, so you talk about, so that is a basic simple expression, able to talk about yourself, able to introduce yourself, able to ask questions. What is your name? That's an A1 ability. Very good. So this is, okay, these are some expressions about personal details that A1 able to do. But we as teachers will have to put this in our curriculum at this end, yeah? Because we, over the years, we must know some expressions which are there, which students can use A1. So if you have a book, you can look at some of the expressions which A1 are able to use, okay? If you look at that. And of a concrete type. So you can't ask, I remember there's this child, we were looking at this child, I was then, I was asked to look at this, she's about, I think 6 years old, 7 years old, she's from Kelantan. She's talking about her favorite book, the book that she likes, okay? So she's 7 or 8 years old, I can't remember. And I was amazed what she can say, what she can talk, what she can say about the book. But others were looking at her inability to express her view. So she said something like this: I like the book. Yeah, I like this book. I like the girl. So she was saying that. So she was actually expressing what an A1 is able to do. Expressing that she likes the book. She likes a person in the book, the girl, okay? And she likes what the girl likes to do. The girl likes to read books, like to talk to her friends and all that. Now, if you look at that ability, you say, oh, she's an A1 student and she's almost A2 because she's able, but she's not able to express her feelings beyond liking. Okay? So if we are a teacher, if we look at this child, the CFR will say, look at this child as an A1 child. Yeah. When you look at this child as A1 child, this is what an A1 child can do. We as teachers bring her up to A2. And what do we need to know in order to bring her up to A2? Yeah. So to bring her up to A2, yeah, okay, she should be able to use basic sentence patterns like this and memorize phrases. That's why teachers give phrases for them to memorize at this level. Okay, but if when they go to university, they talk using memorized phrases, something is wrong somewhere. All right. So at A2, if she's a child, she's in, say, in primary school at standard 3. Now, groups of words. So if you move her up from just saying, I like this book, it's nice. No verb, nice. I like, that's all. That means A1. By the time you go to A2, she can say, I like the book. And the book is nice. Even the word nice, they can't know. They will say, I like the book, color, red. That's A1. So your teacher, our teacher, our as a teacher to move her up to A2. One day, you can move her up to B1. But you need to know what to do in order to help her move up from A2 to B1 along the way. Yeah. And again, as I said, you must remember, they don't tell you how to request in English because this is not for English. So what you need to do is, yeah, a child at this age, at A2, sorry, at this level, can request for information, but the information is a concrete type. Yeah? Concrete type. Can express information, can express, can use everyday expression, but personal detail. That's it. So A is still about personal detail as you go up and up. So what I'm saying is that there is some information on the linguistic range, but the linguistic range does not specify what the linguistic forms are because CFR is not for English. Okay, so we have to provide that. We have to provide that. Yeah. Okay, so there is a critique of this, but to me, this is not for English. It's for all the languages. So as long as someone can request for personal detail, which are details which are concrete in nature, in whatever language, you are an A2 student, in whatever language. Okay, but in English, of course, you have to request in English. In Bahasa Melayu, request in Bahasa Melayu. In French, you request in French. Okay, so that's what the CEFR does to tell. And if you go up there, yeah, B2, remember I said B2, clarity? Yes, can express themselves clearly without much sign of having to restrict what they want to say. So at this, when you are B2, this is B2 higher at the top there. If you look at the way it's arranged, when it's at the top there here, this B2 high because it's going to C1. It's B2 high. A student can express himself clearly and not much difficulty, without much difficulty. That's in B2. Okay. When you go up to C1, of course, you have all this difficult structure, more complex structure. However, if you look at that, they are flexible. That means they can move from complex structures to simple structure. They can move. Yeah, they are not lost because they are flexible. Flexibility is one of the ability of B2 when it comes to using language. And when you C2, you can see the mastery there. Exploit, not just use, exploit, yeah. And comprehensive coming, mastery coming, yeah. Precision, emphasis, all this are C2 ability, yeah. So if our students can do that, then they are C2. So what it means, so what the CEFR does is that it doesn't tell you exactly, as I said, because it's nothing to do with English. It tells you all the language structures at different level for all languages, yeah. From A1 to C2, yeah. And if you see that C1 in writing or speaking, usually, but this is, remember, this is linguistic range. A linguistic range is different from content. So C2, you can see that precision. C1 is flexibility in terms of using the structures. Yeah, because just now when we talk about not the linguistic range, but rather the ability to speak. A C1 student is precise in terms of information, but here is in terms of structure. Yeah, so we expect C2 students to be more precise, more accurate in terms of the structure. Okay, right. So I remember, this is very important when we assess our students. Yeah, I remember years ago when we mark students' essay, we tend to give low marks for students who are not precise in their writing, who are not accurate. But accuracy and precision in terms of linguistic range are actually a C2 ability. So have we been wrong in marking our students' work? Have we been wrong? Do you see what I'm trying to say? Yeah, that's a fear. So the CEFR gives us that, some kind of reference for us to say, this, why did I fail this student? This student is a B2 student. Why did I expect a B2 student to perform at C1 or C2? Do you see what I'm trying to say? Yeah, so that is why I said, if you understand the CEFR, it gives us that knowledge for us to be fair to our students, fairer to our students, yeah, and not to, how do I put it, give them the marks that they don't deserve to get, yeah. So when I look at myself before I know about the CEFR, there are certain things which we did, which we thought, my goodness, had I known about this, I would have marked the essay differently. Okay, but then never mind. As I said, we move forward. We look at what we have done in the past and we learn from the past, but we move forward. Yeah, not to be enslaved by the CEFR, but to use the CEFR as a resource in order to improve our practice in teaching and learning, as well as in assessment. Okay. Any questions so far? Is that okay?
Yes, Prof. Thank you so much for the detailed explanation. Just would like to remind, it's already 4 p.m.
Oh,
and
my
about
goodness.
how time
yeah.
flies. Enjoy ourselves. Now
I'm sorry, I tend to concentrate.
Yeah, it's okay. That was really great, Prof. So we're going to have question and answer session at about 4:15. So we have about 15 minutes more.
Okay.
But if you would like me to read one question from the chat box, if it's okay,
Yes,
or would
please.
you like...
Yeah.
Okay, sure. There is this one question that I had missed before. It's from Miss Deepa Kumari. The question is, how will CFR work out in a pandemic situation as most of the teaching will be online? And how will CFR take into account children with learning disabilities? Thanks, Prof.
That's a difficult question because CFR doesn't talk about learning disability. As I said, you use the CFR as a reference, not controlled by the CFR. Yeah, which means that you develop ideas. From the CFR, you're able to differentiate the different abilities of our students in using English in order to communicate. So, like, learning disabilities are beyond the CFR, okay? Beyond the CFR, that's something else. And what you can do, what the CFR can do is that the CFR will help you, as I said, help you to understand what you need to do in order to help the children. For example, like me, say, during the pandemic, so we put aside the special needs first, yeah, because I do have what do you call that, soft spot for special needs children because they need to be helped. Yeah, we go to the pandemic first, okay. Now, we talk about online, yeah, online. Of course, not just proficiency, even academic subjects are affected by online teaching. Now, proficiency is worse because you cannot have, because human beings, we interact face to face, yeah? And when you put students in a group discussion, it's very difficult to do that online. The CFR doesn't tell us, it's not a pedagogical, what do you call that, resource for you to teach. It's not. It is actually just knowledge for you. It's just knowledge that you need to know in order to differentiate different levels of proficiency. Yeah. So, for example, if you are teaching students online or face-to-face, doesn't matter, who you know are A2 students. Yeah, they are A2 students. A1 moving to A2. Yeah. So you must remember, CFR, we're talking about where are they? Are they at A2 or are they at A1? So if, for example, we take an A2 student, for example, yeah, doesn't matter whether it's university or school, A2 student. The starting point is A2, right? So if you're teaching A2 students, whatever you do in class will be the same as you do online. So if you teach A2 students, like for example, if you look at A2 ability there, if you look at A2 ability, can we go to speaking? It's easier. Can we go to the levels? Not linguistically, just before this, yeah? Shima, just before this. Okay. I think that's okay. Right. Now, if you, okay, I have one here. If you go down to page, let me just see. I'll be able to demonstrate for you, yeah? Okay, page, what page is this? 18, just go to page 18. There's a more detailed description there on speaking, yeah? Let's say online speaking. You're teaching speaking online, yeah? Okay, let us look at that. Okay, we're going to look at A2, okay? Now, if you look at A2, relate basic information. Now, so if you are talking to your student and put them in, I don't know how you're going to put in a group. Let's say you are teaching your student how to relate basic information. Now, whether you teach online or offline, yeah, it doesn't matter because you still have to teach A2 student how to relate basic information concerned with family and free time. So your book, the book that you use, or the material you're going to use with your student must be about this. It's just the medium is different. Now, instead of face-to-face, it is online. What you need to do is that CFR doesn't tell you how to teach. That is what you learn from your own pedagogical practice. Yeah. But what the CFR does is that what you need to teach. So, for example, at A2, they can communicate simple and direct information on familiar matters. So you give them something familiar for them to talk about. Something familiar. Yeah. Give them something familiar to talk about, and just give them a simple expressions that they can use in order to talk about something familiar. Okay? And you notice that they have short utterances. So students of this, so if you have online, you let them talk and give them input. Yeah? You can give them input and let them practice talking with you online. So I'm not a pedagogue. I cannot say that. You are a better teacher than me in that way because I'm not a pedagogue. Yeah. What I'm going to say is that the content you're going to teach, language content, as well as the content in terms of content, yeah, should be at A2. That's core for the CFR. Yeah. And should be about something which is concrete. Okay. So what I'm saying is that you do not ask how to teach it. CEFR doesn't teach you how, but CEFR will tell you what to teach in terms of the language, in terms of the subject matter. Okay, that's what the CEFR does. But we as a teacher, yeah, we then bring in our own knowledge of teaching. Yeah, whatever we learn through our experience to ensure that our students are able to communicate online as A2s and A2 student. That's what this does, not the teaching. Yeah. So that's why when we were aligning, we also came out with a curriculum framework for students doing BA in TESOL or English. And in that framework, the teacher should also know the how, not just a what. The CEFR provide you with a what. That's not enough. CEFR doesn't cover everything. Yeah, CEFR doesn't do everything. CEFR just gives you the what you need to teach, what you need to test. But the how you need to get from another source. Yeah? The training and so on. This is pedagogical knowledge. This is practice. Okay, so as I said, even people like us, when we teach academic course, we have a problem because the what we know is just a how, and that is not handled by the CEFR. CEFR does not deal with that. Okay, so some people blame the CEFR for how come doesn't teach, but that's not the focus of CEFR. The focus of CEFR is the what, not the how. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Yeah. So that not everything's in CEFR, not everything. So as a teacher, you have to come up with a task, the task that is possible for you to function online and help the students, use English the best possible way online. But now we are not doing online anymore, do we? The students have come back to school, yeah? Have they come back to school? Teachers? They are at school now, yeah? Yeah. If they're at school, then that's not a problem, yeah. It's easier because you see human beings communicate. We have to exist in a society, and exist as a, how do you call that? Because sometimes I can imagine when we teach online with face-to-face, there's a bit of a difference because face-to-face, we feel the humanness of us. We feel the humanness. So we can talk with our eyes, with our voice, and whereas online, the humanness of us is more difficult to be expressed. All right. So I hope that answers your question in terms of the CEFR. Yeah. So in short, the CEFR doesn't do that kind of thing. Not the pedagogical part of English language. No. Okay. Right. Any other question?
Sorry. Okay, yes, Prof. We do have a few questions from our chat box here. So I'm just going to read them. The next one is by Lubna Ali. The question is, could you please provide us with example on how to integrate the CFR for TESOL students?
Okay. Remember, CFR is still proficiency, yeah? It's not so proficient. So yes, you can use it in a proficiency class. Yeah. So which means that if you want to use the CFR, use it for your English language courses, proficiency English language courses, not academic courses. Because if the CFR is a proficiency, still at the level of proficiency. But, for example, that's, let's say you want to teach report writing or something else, when you write report, particularly for B2, C1 students, they do need to know the conventions of writing a report, the format, all that. And that is beyond language. That includes under what we call general competences. So CEFR does talk about that, which means that you have to bring in knowledge about the format of the report, how the content of the report, what needs to put in, and that is okay, and you must make sure it's still proficiency because the focus is still on language, but you can't write a report unless you know the conventions, okay, so. But if you're teaching, this is TESOL student, of course. So TESOL student, I presume, will be B2 going to C1, which means that whenever you teach them, you have to keep a genre. You cannot just teach them writing any writing. It has to be a genre, because at B2 level going to C1, they should know how to write logically structured text, within a particular genre. Of course, logical structure will be a C2 ability. That is really high. Hello? Sorry, is that a question or no? Okay, right. Okay, that's the beauty of online anyway. So, right. So what I'm saying is that when you teach, so you have to start with B2, for TESOL student going to C1. Going to C1 already, it is going to the level of precision and clarity. So B2 is precise and clear. If you look at that one there, if you look at this on B2, this is in terms of speaking, of course. But as C1, that becomes more so. And it has to have some, when you give them writing, it has to have to be a particular genre, report, essay, academic writing. It has to have that. You cannot just assign them any kind of writing, because by then they should be able to write according to certain conventions. That's why genre must come in. So your question is whether you can, yes, but proficiency class only. Okay, because it's still proficiency, not academic course, not an academic course. All right.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prof. And we have another question by Miss Hanisa. The question is there a push for standardization and simplification in terms of the implementation of CFR-aligned curriculum and assessment at JPN or PPD schools level?
I don't know about school, but I put it this way. When you adopt the CFR as a frame of reference, there is standardization already. You're going for standardization already, because why standardization is that? Because you refer to the same thing. So for example, if you say, so because we have set the target. So for example, leaving primary school A2. So there is standardization, because everybody will look at students from preschool, coming to primary, A1 to A2, they should be able to do this, be able to do that. So you look at your curriculum framework. If there's a curriculum framework, there is standardization. And you come up with a syllabus based on the curriculum framework, there is standardization. Your scheme of work is also based on the curriculum framework, look at plus the syllabus, so there is standardization. So standardization, when you adopt the CFR, it is there. There is standardization, so no problem at all. The second question, I didn't get it.
Let me just read the question.
The second part.
Okay. Sorry, Prof. Kejap, hold on. Let me go up. Okay, is training of head teachers and senior assistants mapped in the roadmap?
Oh yeah, it is mentioned in the roadmap. I don't know, but it's mentioned in the roadmap. You see, the roadmap has got After university, then you have teacher training. So teacher, because we are more focusing on, when we did the roadmap, focusing on the teaching of and assessing. So we may not mention them because these people may not be involved in the teaching of English. Yeah, so they may not be, but if you look at the highly immersive program by ELTC, it is a holistic approach to the learning of English. And okay, everybody in school will have to be involved. Okay, so it's different. But the teaching of course, is only the teachers, because teachers go to class. We're talking about classroom teaching. But outside the classroom, this is where highly immersive program, very successful, done by ELTC. Everybody will have to be involved, because we are talking about engagement with our students in terms of using the language. Okay, so this is more of a support. Is more to support the use of English, because in the class you are targeted to teach whatever you based on the curriculum. But if you have HIP, you can just do anything. As a student speak English, we are happy. All right, that's when we need the help of everybody, even parents. Yeah. So your answer, not in the CF, in the roadmap, no, I don't think they are mentioned, because it is the English language roadmap. Yeah, that's beyond that. But we did mention HIP, which means it involves everybody. From there, the ELTC has developed their HIP program. It's a very successful program. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Right.
That answers the question.
Yes, thank you so much, Prof, for the most insightful and detailed explanation. Now we would like to welcome any questions from our audience here.
Any questions, you guys? If you have asked all. I have so many slides. I'm sorry. Sometimes I tend to.
No, it's okay, Prof.
Yeah.
There's one question by Mr. Muhammad Azri. How far along are we in integrating CEFR? The question is in the chat box.
Okay. You're talking about school, you're talking about university. Well, school has done a lot already. They've got the CFR, yeah. So let me just show the school there. Page, let me just see, what page is that, the school? Yeah. If you look at page 25, I think. Yeah, page 25. You look at page 25? Yes. Yeah. Okay, page 25. Yeah, that one. Yeah, this one. Look at that. My arrows go haywire because I use Apple. See? The arrows go, never mind. Okay, if you look at this is just school, yeah? A university. I can, of course, talk to you about university because we are doing it. So if you look at school, yeah, because this is about integration. So we start with the macro planning. Macro plan is, of course, the roadmap. Okay, right. So we have finished the roadmap. Then the curriculum planning, after the macro planning, the roadmap at policy level, at planning level, will be the curriculum planning development, which we've already got it. School have already got it. They call their document CF, curriculum framework. They've got the SKP and they got scheme of work. That's done. School. Yeah. Capacity building. Well, capacity building, what has been done is that you've got master trainers being trained. Yeah, and they have trained the teachers. Of course, as I said, this is a starting. We started with that. It's all planned the roadmap, and we actually implemented that. So that's done. Of course, we need to do more because when it comes to learning, nothing is enough. Yeah, you must remember that. Learning is throughout our life. Yeah, and we have the CFR curriculum induction training. That's done. Classroom implementation. You have the we have the textbooks. People talk about foreign textbook. Yeah, we do use that because we thought that let us use this first because they know the CFR because we are still learning. Yeah, I'm always worried about giving people the wrong information because I'm scared of giving people wrong information. I said, let us get whatever from those who know, then we learn from them. So that's done. The pedagogical practice and learning. So now, when we talk about integration, yes, but how we have achieved it in terms of how much we have achieved, That is another thing. Because it depends on human beings. Yeah? It depends on us. When we have a system being introduced, when we have a reform, the reform is a reform. But who gave life to the reform are us. We are the one who gave life to the reform. By doing what? By performing in the classroom, by teaching our students, by giving the materials that they need. That's not the reform. The reform doesn't do that. The reform is just in a document. However, to have the teachers perform, you have to have curriculum documents. You have to have materials. You have to have textbooks. All this must be given. The teachers must be trained. We cannot reform unless we have all this. And it is from, if you work from your heart, if you really care for those who you give knowledge to, your students, your colleagues, your friends, then that's the beginning of it all. Yeah, that's the beginning. It is us. These are just documents. We are the ones who make things work. And we are the ones who can make things a failure, not the documents. Okay, so to answer your question, yes, it is being done. Yeah, university is starting because ours is 2023. The first batch coming is 2023, but we are preparing our curriculum. Is that okay? Yep.
Thank you so much, Prof. Any other questions from our audience here? And also, Miss Deepa, if I'm not mistaken, is requesting for your email, Prof.
Oh, okay.
Your address, yes.
Yes, no problem. Zuraidah, you can use my personal email, zuraidah.don@gmail.com.
Zuraidah.
That's my personal email, yeah.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank you. No
Okay,
problem.
any other questions from our audience here before we end our session?
Yeah, I like what Irene says. Teachers with the passion that can do wonders. Yes, you can do wonders. Yeah, really. Yeah. Yes. Anna says we have so many challenges. Yes, of course. In life, yeah, we have challenges. But I think more importantly, whatever we do, even if we don't implement the CFR, even if we don't do that, there are still challenges in life. Yeah, challenges people say are always there forever. Yeah, but what I think is possible is that with the CFR, it does give you something to fall back on, to guide us in our understanding what teaching English involves at different levels of proficiency. Yeah, so that I think that helps us to improve ourselves. Yeah, how good you are as a teacher depends on you as a person. Yeah, and how successful your class does not depend on CFR. The CFR gives you the knowledge, but if you don't care enough to teach your students, that knowledge is useless. That knowledge is useless. If you have so much knowledge, but you don't care enough to teach your students, you don't care enough to share with others, that knowledge is useless. But if you have little knowledge, but you have the passion to improve yourself and improve your knowledge so that you can help others, my goodness, that knowledge is something. So it all falls back on us. It is us, not the CFR, not the document, not nothing. These things just provide us with the information that we can use in order to improve our practice. Yeah. So most importantly, listen to your children. Listen with care. Care enough to put in the effort to give them what they need. That's what we need to do. Yeah. And then everything else will fall into place. Yeah. So enjoy it. Yeah, enjoy the difficulty and enjoy the journey of learning. Yeah, enjoy it. It comes once in a lifetime. When you retire, I've retired, but I still continue. Then it's something else. Okay, right. So all of you, I'm so pleased that you are with us, all of us here. I hope this sharing of information about the CFR makes you realize, or makes all of us realize, that there is knowledge out there that we can use. Although it comes from a different country, but we can use. Using that knowledge, we can improve our practice, not just in teaching, but also in assessment. And be fair to our students. We teach and test what we teach. Be fair with our students, yeah, or to our students. Okay, anything else?
Anything else from our audience here?
Yeah, so can we have part 2?
Part 2?
Because you have a lot slides here, and the rest of it were on assessment. And that
Yeah,
would
it's so
be,
detailed. Yeah, that's so detailed.
Yes, so can we have part 2 on this so that you can
with you
focus
all,
on
university
assessment?
We would love
I
to.
don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm all right. It's just part 2 is assessment and curriculum as well. Yeah. So yes, it's up to you all. Yeah, if you want to.
Allah, we will work on that with Dr. Sheila. But I feel that we really need this. Okay, inshallah, we'll work on that and we will update Prof soon.
You're giving me more work, so she knows me. I love it.
You have prepared a lot on curriculum
Yeah,
assessment.
yes.
Sayang.
But yeah, as I said, this knowledge is it's knowledge that we share together through our journey. I learn from all of you as well. You know, because sometimes when you ask me difficult questions, I have to think very carefully. Yeah. Okay. Right.
So I believe we have come to the end of the session. So on behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to express our utmost gratitude and appreciation to Prof for the most valuable input and knowledge that we have received today. We certainly have learned a lot from you, and this session has certainly provided us with so much inspiration to be the best teachers that we possibly can. Inshallah, Ameen.
Inshallah, yeah.
Yes. So I would like to also extend our appreciation to everyone who has attended our session today. Thank you so much for your support. Now, before we go, let us all take a picture or two together.
Oh yeah,
So,
that's nice. Okay.
Can you please turn on your camera and put on a big smile? I think I'm going to give a moment for everyone to get ready.
So can you see my face? I've been like, I dare
Yes,
not press anybody. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So on the count of 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and smile. Okay. Another round will be taken by Mr. Arifuddin. 1, 2, 3, and smile. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you,
Have a
Prof.
lovely evening.
Take care,
Goodbye.
Prof.
Bye. I'll see you next. See you again.
Bye, Prof. See ya.
Bye. See you.
See you again, Prof.
Bye, Zuraidah.
Bye. Hi. Who's that? Hi.
You remember me?